Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door must take on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed, all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Dark Incubus. The goddess next door gets enthralled in a romantic entanglement with an evil incubus in this all-new Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis, Dark Incubus in paperback and e-readers today. Why do action movies that feature female heroines fail at the box office? Well, as a guy who writes stories that feature female heroines in action stories, like my Isis and Esteem series books and my vampire novel Eternal Night, I believe the answer is that when it comes down to the movie studios, they just don't understand that men and women are completely different. And when it comes down to men and women, there are two completely different paradigms as related to action stories that feature male heroes and female heroines. Now, the biggest mistake I believe that the studios basically make is that they're trying to go out here and try to create a one-size-fits-all story model as related to both male heroes and female heroines, and that's the major reason why many of their projects like Terminator, Dark Fate, the recent Charlie's Angels, and other movies like the recent Supergirl movie wind up completely failing at the box office. Now, when it comes down to Hollywood wants to go out here and have a guaranteed formula for box office success as related to action movies. Unfortunately, when it comes down to Hollywood, they try to go out here and think that men and women are the same, and men and women want the exact same type of story. And that's not the case at all as related to action stories. No, when we look at the male action hero, the male action hero's motives for storytelling is going out here and beating the bad guys and accomplishing the goal. That is the whole point of the male action hero story as they go on the hero's journey. The hero's journey, in many cases, is to go out here and basically beat the bad guy, and that works well for male heroes. However, when it comes down to female heroines, female heroines have a completely different story model, and this is where Hollywood winds up missing the mark most of the time. Now, if we look at the successful stories that feature female heroines, like Ripley in the Alien saga, Sarah Connor in the Terminator series, and even characters like Xena, Warrior Princess, and Buffy, the Vampire Slayer, they all have a completely different story model than the one for male characters. Now, when I look at those characters like Ripley, Sarah Connor, Buffy, and Xena, I see that the main thing as related to them being lead characters is that as heroines, they are basically focused on the role of looking to try to help out a male character. And that basically fits within the lines of a woman's natural role as a helpmeet, as God established. And when it comes down to most women basically want to go out here and help a man in their lives. Because if we look at Alien, Ripley was looking to help out the staff as they were looking to battle the alien, and eventually as the alien was basically killing most of them, Ripley wanted to step up to try to help protect those men on that base, and that's why that character became very endearing to most guys, and many girls identified with her. And then when we look at Sarah Connor basically was a woman who basically was just going out here living her regular life, and eventually what happened was, as Kyle Reese came into the picture, as the Terminator was after her, it was her looking to try to help out Kyle Reese as related to trying to deal with this machine. Now, Kyle had been sent to help her, but basically her female instincts kicked in, and she wanted to go out here and help protect this man. And that's when the warrior in Sarah Connor basically came out,
when she wanted to go out here and look to try to protect Kyle Reese from this machine that was trying to kill her. And if we look at Terminator 2, this is where we see where Sarah Connor's whole motives as related to being a helpmeet basically go out here and further develop as she looks to go out here and look to protect her son, John Connor. And that basically appealed to a lot of women, because women who have maternal instincts, the one thing that they want to do is protect their children. And Sarah Connor was basically seen as a badass mother because she was looking to go out here and protect her son and go to all lengths to protect her son. Even though she was in the mental hospital, she still loved her son and would do anything to protect her son. That meant something to Sarah Connor, and that meant something to most women they could relate to. Most women could go out here and relate to Sarah Connor as related to her struggles to go out here and do anything for her son. So those were things that made Sarah Connor a very relatable woman, just like Ripley wasn't a relatable woman. And then when we get to Xena, Warrior Princess, Xena basically started out as a supporting character in Hercules. Yeah, she was the bad guy and the warrior princess, but as the warrior princess, eventually she went out here and eventually turned to the good side after she became quite popular for taking on Hercules. And as she was out here, again, she wanted to help out Hercules. And later on, as she got her own series, she basically wanted to go out here and again help people out. And also, when we look at Xena, she also had other things going for her that women could relate to, like she had her cool horse Argo. Now, this is something many people don't really pay attention to, but women love horses. A lot of, especially white and non-black women from foreign countries, they love horses, and her having a horse really was something that a lot of women could get with. Not to mention, she had a BFF in Gabrielle, and that she could go out here and have as a best friend. That was another thing that basically made that character endearing to a lot of people. And the Xena-Gabrielle relationship, again, was considered to be something special because every woman out here basically has a best friend that they are close to, like a sister, someone that they basically have bonded with and have that connection with like a sister. And as they have that connection, that's something that basically brought a lot of women to look to watch Xena. Not to mention, when it came down to the guys, Lucy Lawless as Xena was the type of woman that many guys wanted to date. Many guys wanted to go out here and date this type of woman who, again, was not only strong but feminine. And then when it came also down to Xena, there was a lot of focus on romance and the possibility of romance with characters like Ares. I mean, the whole Ares situation basically was a thing that had a lot of women coming to Xena and a lot of guys coming to Xena. And that was something that made the show relatable to most women and most men, was the blend of action, adventure, romance, and humor. These were things that made Xena must-see TV for a good chunk of the 1990s until the formula basically fell apart when they just went out here and gave Xena the baby and then had Xena come out to be this alphabet character, again alienating many of the viewers. But when it came down to the prime Xena, it was everything that a woman wanted in a hero's journey. It was everything that they wanted to see in a hero's journey, of two women coming together and bonding as two friends that were close as sisters as they went out here battling the bad guys. And that's what made that show, again, a huge hit as related to heroines in TV. And then when we get to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, now Buffy the Vampire Slayer also wanted to help out. Yes, she was chosen to be the Slayer. However, she was looking to go out here and help in slaying the vampires in order to protect Sunnydale. And she was given guidance by the Watcher, who was Giles, who was like a father figure to Buffy. And as she had that father figure giving her guidance, she also had an interest in a love interest in Angel, the vampire. So all of the elements were there. I mean, she also had a group of friends like Xander and Willow and a rival in Cordelia. So it was a lot of things there that were relatable to most men and women as related to male-female dynamics. in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, there were things that everybody could relate to as related to Buffy's story, because Buffy was basically, as she was looking to slay vampires, she was also looking to slay it as related to fashion. She had, again, a killer wardrobe, and she also had cool friends, and she also had, again, that father figure in Giles, and had a cool boyfriend in Angel. She had all the elements of a life that many women would want to aspire to have, and also had good action-packed stories that could go out here and appeal to the guys. Now, we can also see that same formula basically be a part of 2017's Wonder Woman movie. Now, when we look at the Wonder Woman movie was a huge success, mainly because the writers of that screenplay did understand women. Yeah, Diana was on Paradise Island, but Diana basically wanted to aspire to do more than just be a princess on Paradise Island. Again, the princess part was something a lot of women wanted to aspire to, but the thing that they really wanted to aspire to was the life that Diana wanted to have. Now, Diana basically, when Steve Trevor came down, here was a man coming down to her, and basically she wanted to go out here and get with this guy, and she wanted to help him out as he was in the middle of this war. Now, Diana wanted to experience war, but the thing that motivated her to experience war was being at the side of Steve Trevor, and as she was at the side of Steve Trevor, basically what she wanted to do was find a way to get this man by helping him out in the war. And as she wanted to help this man out in the war, she wanted to be able to get with this man, and that was the thing that basically drove that story and made it very relatable to women, similar to the way that 2002's Spider-Man was a big movie with a lot of women. A lot of women loved the whole romance story between Peter Parker and Mary Jane, and that really drove the box office for that movie, not to mention 2008's Iron Man. Again, women love seeing powerful, handsome guys, and they want to be able to say, I can get with that type of guy. And that's the type of story that basically appeals to female audiences. Yeah, you'll get the guys with the action, but the women want to be able to see a woman that they want to be like. And this is where Hollywood gets it twisted. And they think, oh, women want to have an action story. But the whole thing is that they want to try to make an action story with a female protagonist, but they want to go out here and put a male formula on it, not understanding that men and women are completely different, and men and women look to accomplish things in different fashions. This is something that I understood when I go out here and I write stories like those in the ISIS series and the Esteem series. I understand that when I go out here and write a story with a female heroine, the heroine's journey is very different from the hero's journey, and the goals of the heroine are completely different than the heroes. Yeah, they want to beat up the bad guys at the end of the day, but the way they go on the journey is completely different than the way men go on the journey. And when it comes down to women, the way they go on the heroine's journey is a completely different character transformation arc. And in that character transformation arc, it's all about them basically, again, going through this whole journey of discovery as they're looking to overcome the obstacles in front of them. Now, when it comes down to women, women basically are emotional, and the way they have a rivalry with their arch enemies is completely different. And this is where a lot of these studios fuck it up. They go out here and think, oh, they're going to just look to take on this bad guy. And I watch many movies like Wonder Woman 84, where they basically fumble this whole premise in not understanding the way women have rivalries is very different than men. Now, when it comes down to a guy like a Luke Skywalker or a Hercules, yeah, they want to beat the bad guy as related to the goal they want to accomplish. But for women, it's basically very different. And when it comes down to women, everything is very personal. And it's personal because women invest their emotions in looking to get back at the person that they're in the rivalry with. Now, an example of this was shown to me in old episodes of Xena Warrior Princess, where Xena basically, as she was having her feud with Callisto, it was not something about, oh, I want to go out here and stop Ares from, again, doing some sort of sacrifice that was going to do something to Olympus. No, it was really personal between these two women, because Xena had wound up killing Callisto's family, and Callisto wanted revenge. I think that's what it basically was. And eventually it became really personal between these two women. And as they were having their feud, things just really escalated to the point where they were really going at it. And again, this was must-see TV because it was personal between those two women. And as it was personal between those two women, that's what really made that rivalry turn into, again, highly rated television. And this is where they get it really twisted as related to many heroines, because many of these screenwriters, again, they come from gynocentrism and they want to protect the heroines. But in order for us to see how this heroine actualizes her potential and grows, she has to be able to go out here and have an adversary worthy of challenging her, just like Callisto was challenging Xena and pushing her to the limits of her moral character. And when it comes down to the heroine, what we have to see is that this woman has to go out here and take losses. We have to see this woman take losses in order to grow. Now, if we look at the hero's journey with Luke Skywalker, Luke took a lot of losses on his journey to becoming a Jedi. He wound up losing Obi-Wan, his mentor. He wound up losing his friend, Biggs Darklighter, as they were on the road to the Death Star. And all of that, again, was on his journey. He also lost his hand in the battle with Darth Vader. And he also, again, lost so much. But with many of the heroines, many of these writers, they just start to become afraid to make that woman lose. And that prevents that heroine from being able to grow as a character. Now, when it comes down to heroines, again, when it comes down to them losing, the way they lose is different than a guy. Now, for a guy, he can lose a fight and then learn to come back from that fight. But when women lose, it's not about them losing a fight. It's about them losing face. And a woman, when she loses face, it's one of the worst things that can happen to a woman is to lose face, because when it comes to women, women are primarily social, and with women being primarily social and emotional, a loss for them is winding up losing their face as related to who they are. And when they lose their face, it basically, that's what they consider to be a loss for them. Again, being embarrassed in a group of people or being humiliated in front of a group of people. That is what happens with women. And when it comes down to women antagonists usually, they want to hurt another woman. That's where the writers basically just get everything wrong, because when it comes to women, like I said before, everything is personal with women, and it's about not going out here and beating the woman. It's about hurting and humiliating the woman, and hurting and humiliating the woman is how a woman loses. And that's where we start to see the growth journey as related to that woman coming to another level of maturity as she perseveres to overcome the odds. That's what makes a heroine's journey very different than the hero's journey, because the way the woman loses is by losing her face and having to go out here and pick herself back up in the aftermath of the humiliation she has suffered. That's what makes the heroine's journey completely different, is that this woman has to go out here and show the resolve to continue persevering in the face of being humiliated and having to lose face in front of all the people she basically cares about, like her best friend, her family, and even the man that she basically wants to get involved with. That's what shows the character of a woman basically trying to overcome her own feelings of guilt and shame about having to be made to look bad in most cases. And as she tries to overcome those feelings, this is where we see the resolve of that woman as related to her strength of character. And it's that strength of character that is the thing that allows many men and women to relate to and identify with this heroine, identify and relate with this heroine because she has this strong moral character and strong moral conviction to continue standing up for what she believes in. And as she continues to have that conviction and character, that's how she builds that strength and resolve to become the woman she wants to be. That's what the core of the heroine's journey is completely about, that the Hollywood studios basically miss. And as they miss out on this, they basically miss out on being able to tell a compelling story with a heroine because they think, oh, people want to see this woman going out here and being able to participate in all sorts of action stunt sequences, but that's not what people come to as related to the heroine's journey. No, if we look at the heroine's journey, it's all about her looking to go out, in many cases, help a man in a lot of cases, and as she's helping that man go out here and look to persevere to show that she has the strength of character to support that man in some cases, like what Diana did with Steve Trevor. And as she's doing this, she's finding out about the world around her, like Diana did in Wonder Woman, and learning that war is basically hell, and it's not some sort of idealized concept like she saw on Paradise Island, that it's about people around them. And that's another element people miss out on. When it comes to women, it's always about the people and the relationships that they have. If we look at all the successful movies that feature heroines in the lead, Alien was really about Ripley's relationship with the crew on that ship. When we look at Terminator, Sarah Connor's whole story was about her relationship with Kyle Reese and her relationship with her son. And when we look at Xena Warrior Princess, it was always about her relationships with Gabrielle and people like Joxer and even gods like Ares and her relationship with her rival Callisto. Again, another thing people really miss out on is understanding that when it comes down to heroines, it's always about when they have enemies, it's always about their relationship. It's always about the relationship the hero has with the bad guy. I mean, if we look at Buffy in and of itself, it was always about Buffy's relationship with Angel in the first couple of seasons as she was taking on the Master, and her relationships with Willow and Xander and Giles. It was always about those relationships, and as the series went on, eventually it became about her relationship with Spike. I mean, with all these characters, when you're dealing with heroines, it's always about the relationship she has with the bad guy, and people just don't understand that when it comes to women, again, like I'll repeat it once more, women are very social, and with them being social, everything is about the relationships they're having with the people in their lives. That's what makes them relatable to people, because if they're out here and they're a friend to the people on screen, then they'll be a friend to the people in the audience, and that's what makes people look at that character and say, this is a woman I aspire to be like. And when it comes down to the guys, they look at that woman and say, oh, that's a woman I want to date because she's kind, because she's friendly, because she's really nice. Again, when it comes down to a woman, this is a woman who you want the audience to see as a best friend, and you want the men to see as somebody that they want to date, not to mention tossing in a little bit of jiggle. Now, when it comes down to jiggle, some people will say that it's sexist. However, when it comes to both men and women want to see a very sexy, attractive woman for different reasons. Now, many of the guys want to see a hot woman because they're visual creatures, but But when it comes down to most women want to see an attractive woman on screen because they see somebody they, one, want to aspire to be like, and they see somebody who has a style that they believe will get them the attention of the men in their lives. And as they're looking at this woman, they're seeing somebody that they possibly want to emulate to get the attention of the kind of guys they want to go out here and get with. So when they downplay the beauty of women on screen, it really does not benefit many of these films, like what they did with Rey in Star Wars by dressing her up dowdy, or going out here and having Supergirl not looking right in her costume. When it comes down to most women, they want to see that woman in that costume the way they saw with Xena Warrior Princess, or in cool outfits like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That's why you want to go out here and have your women looking good. And that's what Hollywood also gets wrong. They don't understand that you do need a little bit of jiggle if you want to go out here and get the attention of the audience out here and get them to be motivated to go see your movies and TV shows. And this is where Hollywood gets it lost as they're looking to make their heroines. They don't really understand the paradigm for making heroines is making someone that is likable, someone that's relatable, somebody that can be a friend to the audience. No, what they want to do is go out here and give us a movie that features this woman who basically is trying to be extremely aggressive and basically is a know-it-all character. And those traits basically turn men and women off in real life, because most women don't like the woman who thinks that she knows everything. They think that type of woman is just extremely arrogant and extremely nasty, and they want to avoid that woman. And when it comes to guys, they don't like that type of woman at all. But Hollywood wants to present that as a hero. And what they do, that they wind up alienating the audience. They wind up alienating the audience as related to their stories, because you're presenting someone that no one wants to be friends with, nobody wants to date, and nobody wants to spend 2 hours of their lives with. Because when it comes down to men and women, you have to convince people that they need to spend 2 hours with this person as they're watching your movie, and you have to give them something to care about in that 2 hours. And it's hard to care about someone like in the case of Rey, who basically knows everything and doesn't want to go through any sort of loss or pain or any sort of suffering at all. Or in the case of a character like the Dark Fate Terminator, basically, again, doesn't have any sort of traits that make you connect with this big robot to see that this is somebody we need to care about. Or in the case of Supergirl, you've got the type of chick that basically both men and women get turned off on, because this is a woman with a bad attitude who basically spends her day basically drinking. Again, these are not people want to spend time with. But when it comes down to the studios, they want to think that, oh, because she's physically strong, that this is going to be attractive, or she's got power like a man. But that's not what makes a woman powerful. Again, what makes a woman powerful is internal things as related to strength of character, as she's basically gone through these humiliations and these losses as related to her social standing. These are the things that make people respect this woman, that even though she winds up losing face, she still continues to get up and persevere and continue to keep on walking. Because it's like I wrote about in one of my novels, The Thetas, where I put a line where the woman, grandmother Flowers, says, you know, it's not how you fall, it's how you get back up. That's what makes a woman a hero, is that she can fall and get back up and still keep walking. That's what makes women relate to other women, is that, yeah, this chick, yeah, she wound up losing her face, she wound up falling down, she wound up losing everything, but she still got back up and still went back out there. And that's what every working woman basically knows. Yeah, I wound up, again, losing. I may have lost the promotion, or I may have lost in this situation, but I'm still going to keep going out here and continue to push out here. That's what women can relate to as related to their journey. And that's what I put in many of my books, like in the ISIS series. I remember when I did the first book in the ISIS series in 2011, Amari's Revenge. It was all about Isis, who was basically a servant in Nubia. And as she was a servant in Nubia, she had to deal with this jealous princess, Amari, who basically was upset that Isis was being favored by most of the king and most of the servants. And she wanted to go out here and humiliate Isis. She wanted to go out here and take away the presence that she had by looking to take away her face. And as she looked to humiliate Isis by beating her and doing all sorts of cruel things to her, basically Amari wanted to, again, it turned into this rivalry as Isis was looking to try to maintain her character as related to her resolve. And eventually this turned into this relationship, which turned into a bit of a rivalry. And that rivalry led to Amari basically eventually looking to want to kill Isis. And eventually what happened was the prince had to come in, and while the prince was betrothed to Amari, he then banished Isis from the kingdom. So Isis, not only as she tried to maintain her faith, she lost her kingdom, she lost her destiny, and she lost so much. And as Amari was out here, she wasn't satisfied because she wanted to see Isis humiliated and suffer as related to her death. And that's what led to the story of Isis and Amari's Revenge. And I understood because, again, when I understood is women, again, when they're having their arch enemy, again, it's a rivalry. And again, the other woman wants to ruin the other woman. And as she looks to ruin the other woman, she wants to see that woman broken and destroyed and humiliated. And again, the woman rises by showing how she can continue to stand, even though she's basically lost everything as related to losing face. Because in the first chapter of Amari's Revenge, I show how Isis is being beaten by a man, and then still, after being beaten up, she still continues to stand in front of Amari, and that's the thing that upsets her. And as I'm continuing the Isis series, I did another story called The Beauty Myth, and in The Beauty Myth, you have a character, Rahima Sanders, who basically is motivated by seeing Isis being over 1,000 years old, and she covets her beauty. And as she covets her beauty, she wants to humiliate Isis when she kidnaps her by going out here and making critiques on her body and stuff. That's the type of stuff that women do to each other. And again, this is the stuff that's missing from many of these movies, because many of the movie studio executives, they'll sit there and think, oh, a woman, if you go out here and do this type of stuff, it'll be seen as soft, it'll be seen as not really what the audience wants to see, but this is what women want to see, and this is what men want to see. They want to see that woman having the strength of character to stand in the face of adversity, and that's what makes a woman a heroine, is that she can stand in the face of adversity, especially when they have to deal with other women. Because when women have to deal with other women basically, again, naturally women are competitive against other women, and as they're competitive against other women, women want to humiliate other women, especially evil women. They want to humiliate another woman, and they want to see that woman completely broken down. And as they look to gain power in the social spaces, that's what they look to do. They want to get that power in that situation. And that's what I would put in my stories, like what I did, again, with Isis and Amari, and then Isis and Rahima. And I also did it in another story called Isis, All That Glitters, where she takes on this Golden Shine character. Now, this Golden Shine character basically was a beautiful blonde, and this black woman, basically, she was a tomboy. And again, when it comes down to many of the tomboys, yeah, they are physically strong, but when it comes down to this was the shock for Isis. She had to take on this Golden Shine, who basically was this beautiful blonde white woman, and she basically beats her up, and that basically is a wound to her pride. And again, it's a wound to her pride because she's lost face in front of people, and she has to continue to get back up to stop this criminal. And I also did this with the Bride of Dracula story, where she went out here with John Haynes, trying to tell him how to do his business, and eventually she gets humiliated when Dracula gets the drop on her. Again, when it comes down to women, it's about different story dynamics and different story dynamics as related to stuff. I also did this with the Esteem character, where she had a rivalry with Delilah. Now, this demon Delilah basically wanted Esteem's spot in Lucifer's Legion, and she also wanted to get revenge on Esteem because her mother basically was her #1 fan. And as her mother was getting the attention, was looking to give Esteem all this attention that she wanted, she basically, again, wanted to destroy the icon in her mother's eyes. And that was the whole relationship with them, was that Delilah did not like the whole idea that Esteem had been placed in a place where she had been elevated above her, who was her biological daughter. Again, it's all, when it comes down to women basically, they are in a different type of story, a different type of journey, a different type of thing. And yeah, you can go out here and have the explosions and the action and the punching and the fighting. And I do all of that in many of my stories in the Isis and Esteem series. But I understand that when it comes to the heroine's journey is a completely different story. I understand that the heroine's journey is about, again, them basically, again, having to take these losses as related to their face in order to show their strength of character. I mean, I even do this in other books, like with the Matilda Crowley character in Spellbound, where I show how this shy young woman basically goes on a heroine's journey as she looks to find her voice. Now, she is this biracial black woman who's being beat up by bullies because she wants to go out here and be the standard of black that she learned from her mother and her white father. And as she's looking to follow what she believes is the tradition of blackness, she has to deal with these ghetto black girls who look to humiliate her to push her out of the high school social circle. And as she's looking to try to find her voice, what Matilda does is this is what leads to her going on this journey after she loses face and basically winds up getting suspended from school. This is where she goes into the transformation to becoming the Black Widow. And as she becomes the Black Widow as a part of the goth subculture, she eventually finds her voice. And as she finds her voice, she starts to not only speak out, but also starts to push back against her enemies. And these are the type of stories that Hollywood, again, isn't telling because, again, they think, oh, if I tell a story from a woman's perspective and a woman's heroine's journey, that it won't be compelling. They don't think it'll get blockbuster numbers, but it will get blockbuster numbers. But you have to understand, again, women have a completely different story, and that story can be one that can be compelling for males who go to the movies, because men love women. Men love stories about women, and you can put action and adventure in those stories. I do it all the time with the Isis series. I do it all the time with the Esteem series. I do it all the time with the books like that feature Matilda Crowley. I mean, when I do women, men go out here and they love those type of stories. I get a lot of guys who pick up those stories and say, hey, that's the type of girl I want for a girlfriend. That's the type of girl I want to go out on a date with. And when it comes down to the women, they go, oh, that's the type of girl I want to hang out with. That's what people want in a heroine. They want a best friend. They want a girl next door. They want somebody who can go out here and be what they believe has character traits that make them attractive. They want someone who they believe will be a helpmeet to them. I mean, that's what women love to do. They love to go out here and help men. They like to go out here and help their friends. They like to go out here and have relationships with people. I mean, all of these things missing from these superheroine movies. I mean, I look at Captain Marvel, I look at the Marvels, I look at Ms. Marvel, and I sit there and I say, hey, where's her best friend? Hey, where's her older female friends? Where are, her homegirls? Where are the people in her life? And where are, the adversaries out here who are looking to go out here and clown this woman? I mean, where's the stuff that women can relate to? Because, yeah, you can go out here and create a heroine, but there's got to be more to it than that. I mean, some chick in a costume is nice, and if she looked nice in the costume, yeah, we gonna take a look at that chick. We gonna look at how fly she look. But the whole thing is, we got to see, her overcoming obstacles and overcoming adversaries in both her personal and hero life. And that's what's really missing from a lot of these stories that I try to put in, like Isis and Esteem books and books like the Thetas and Eternal Night. I try to show you, when it comes down to women, again, their whole journey is different, and the way they do things is completely different than a man. And we have to go out here and understand this. We have to understand that the story of a woman's journey and a heroine's journey, it can be compelling and can possibly be a blockbuster at the box office. But when it comes to Hollywood, they have to understand you can't tell a man's story with a woman, and you have to understand that what makes a woman's story work is completely different than that from the story you tell with a man. Now, if you want to check out my stories that feature strong heroines, you have strength of character, you can pick up my books in the Isis series, the Esteem series, the John Haynes series, and the books in the Spinsterella series like Spellbound, The Legendary Mad Matilda, and Spinsterella, my vampire novel, Eternal Night, and my black sorority novel, The Thetas. All those books are available on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format, and they're also available at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to see me make more videos talking about writing, heroines, and the heroine's journey, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available in paperback and e-readers, Esteem Season of the Witch Girl. The aspiring angel takes on a wicked teenage witch in this action-packed, all-new Esteem series adventure. Pick up your copy of Esteem Season of the Witch Girl in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers today.
Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Runway of Doom. The goddess next door struts her stuff on the catwalk to take on a runway of rogues in this action-packed all-new Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis, Runway of Doom at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere.
Now available in paperback and Kindle, Vampires Stalk the Darkness of the Eternal Night. Get your copy of Eternal Night in paperback and Kindle on Amazon.com. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.